Tonight we travel quietly to the ancient city of Pompeii. Not to the moment of destruction, not to the sound of panic, but to the calm evening before everything changed. It is late summer in the year 79. The air is warm and still. The land around Pompeii rests beneath the fading light of the setting sun. Rows of vineyards stretch across the gentle hills outside the city. Grapes hang heavy on the vines, dark and full after the long summer. In the distance, Mount Vesuvius rises quietly above the landscape. To the people who live here, the mountain is simply part of everyday life. It has always been there, silent, unmoving, almost comforting. A vineyard worker walks slowly between the rows of vines. His hands are stained faintly purple from the grapes he gathered earlier in the day. The harvest has begun, and the fields have been busy since early morning. But now the work is finished. The evening has arrived. The air feels softer as the heat of the day fades. Cicadas hum gently in the grass. A warm breeze moves through the leaves of the vines. The worker pauses and looks toward the city of Pompeii. From here, the rooftops glow softly in the last light of the sun. Smoke rises gently from cooking fires. People are preparing their evening meals. The day is ending peacefully. He has lived near Pompeii for many years. He knows the rhythm of this place. The harvest in late summer, the markets filled with fresh fruit, the quiet evenings after long days of work. Everything follows a familiar pattern. The worker bends slightly and picks one remaining grape from the vine. It is warm from the sun, sweet, the taste of late summer. He walks slowly toward a small stone wall at the edge of the vineyard. From there, he can see Mount Vesuvius more clearly. The mountain stands quietly against the evening sky. Its slopes are dark now. The sun is almost gone. Nothing about it seems unusual. No smoke, no fire, no sound, just a silent shape resting above the land. The worker sits on the low wall. The earth still holds the warmth of the day. Somewhere nearby, a cart rolls slowly along the road toward the city. Voices drift faintly across the fields. Farmers returning home, animals settling for the night. Everything feels calm. The worker has heard stories about earthquakes in the past, small tremors that sometimes move through the ground. But such things are rare, and life always returned to normal. Tonight, the earth feels still beneath him. The sky deepens into shades of blue. The first stars begin to appear above the mountain. The vineyard grows quiet. Leaves rustle softly in the evening breeze. The worker stands and begins walking slowly toward his small home near the edge of the fields. Behind him, the rows of vines stretch quietly into the darkness. Ahead, the lights of Pompeii flicker gently. Another peaceful night is beginning, and the land rests quietly beneath the shadow of Vesuvius, unaware that this calm evening is the last ordinary sunset before the mountain awakens. The night in Pompeii settles gently over the city. Warm air lingers between the narrow streets. Stone walls slowly release the heat gathered during the long summer day. The vineyard worker sits outside his small home, watching the lights of the city in the distance. Evening meals are ending now. Voices grow softer, doors close, and the rhythm of the night begins. From where he sits, he can see Mount Vesuvius rising quietly above the land. The mountain looks peaceful, its slopes dark against the deepening sky. Nothing about it suggests danger. For generations, people have lived here without fear. The land around the mountain is fertile. The vineyards grow strong. The soil is rich, and life moves in a steady and predictable rhythm. The worker leans back against the wall of his house. The stone is still warm. A soft breeze moves through the fields. Leaves rustle gently in the vineyard behind him. Somewhere nearby, a donkey shifts quietly in its stall. The sounds of the countryside are calm and familiar. From the direction of Pompeii comes faint music, a flute, perhaps, or voices from a tavern. The city is still awake, but the countryside is already preparing for sleep. The worker closes his eyes for a moment. It has been a long day. The harvest requires patience, careful hands. Slow work beneath the sun. Tomorrow will bring more of the same. More grapes, more baskets, more quiet hours in the vineyard. He opens his eyes again and looks toward the mountain. The stars now shine clearly above its peak. The sky is calm, clear, still. The worker remembers small tremors that sometimes pass through the ground. Years ago, he felt one while working among the vines. The earth moved slightly. Dust fell from the leaves, but nothing more happened. Such things were rare, and life continued. Tonight, the ground feels completely still. He places his hand lightly on the soil beside him. Warm, solid, unmoving, the worker stands slowly. The night is deepening. The lights of Pompeii flicker softly in the distance. Soon, even those will disappear. He walks a short distance toward the edge of the vineyard. Rows of vines stretch quietly into the darkness. The leaves whisper softly as the breeze passes through them. Crickets begin their steady rhythm. The sounds of night grow stronger. The worker pauses once more. From here he can see both the mountain and the city. Two silent shapes resting beneath the same sky. Pompeii glowing faintly with lamps. Vesuvius standing quietly above it all. Nothing moves. Nothing changes. Everything feels peaceful. He turns back toward his house. Inside, a small oil lamp burns beside the doorway. Its light flickers gently. The worker steps inside and closes the door. The room is simple: a wooden table, a clay jug, a narrow bed, the familiar comfort of ordinary life. He lowers the flame of the lamp. The light softens. Outside, the night continues to deepen. The city grows quieter. The vineyards settle into stillness. And beneath the calm summer sky, Pompeii rests peacefully, unaware that the quiet rhythm of this night is about to change forever. The night grows deeper over the land around Pompeii. The vineyard is now completely quiet. Only the soft rhythm of insects fills the warm air. The worker lies awake for a short while before sleep comes. The day has been long, but the evening feels unusually calm. From his small window, he can see a faint outline of the mountain. Mount Vesuvius rises gently against the starlit sky. It looks peaceful, almost comforting. For many people in this region, the mountain is simply part of life. Fields stretch across its slopes. Vineyards grow in the fertile soil. Paths wind slowly up its sides. Travelers sometimes walk those paths without giving the mountain much thought. The worker has done the same many times. He has climbed part way up the slope to gather wood. He has watched the sunrise from the hills. He has never seen anything unusual. Tonight, the sky is clear. Stars shine softly above the peak. The air is warm and still. After a while, sleep finally comes. The worker's breathing slows. Outside, the night continues. Hours pass quietly. The city of Pompeii sleeps. Homes are dark, streets empty, dogs lie beside doorways. The vineyards rest beneath the stars. Sometime later, the worker stirs slightly. Not fully awake. Just a small movement. He shifts in his sleep. For a brief moment, the ground beneath the house seems to tremble. Very gently. almost like a passing cart rolling far away. The worker does not wake. Small tremors are not unknown in this region. They come and go, often unnoticed. The house settles again. The night remains calm. Crickets continue their steady sound. The breeze moves softly through the vines. Nothing else changes. The worker sleeps on. The stars slowly move across the sky. Time passes. Far away, inside the city, a few lamps still burn in late taverns. Voices drift faintly through narrow streets. But most of Pompeii rests quietly. The hours before dawn are always the most peaceful. The air grows slightly cooler. The land feels still. The worker turns once more in his sleep. Again, a faint movement passes through the ground, so slight that it might be imagined. The wooden beams of the house creak softly. Then the silence returns. Such moments are easy to ignore, easy to forget. Life in this region has always included small tremors, the earth shifting gently beneath the surface. People speak of them occasionally, then return to their daily work. The worker sleeps deeply now, unaware of the subtle signs, unaware that the quiet mountain above the vineyards is slowly changing. Outside, the night continues peacefully. The stars fade slowly as the first faint hint of dawn begins to appear. Pompeii still sleeps. The vineyards remain calm, and Mount Vesuvius stands silent against the early morning sky. Before dawn, the land around Pompeii remains quiet. The sky is still dark, though the stars are beginning to fade. A faint coolness settles over the vineyards. The vineyard worker sleeps deeply, unaware of the slow passing of time. In the distance, the city of Pompeii lies silent, its streets empty, its homes still. Only a few lamps remain, burning in upper windows. The hours before sunrise are always the calmest. The air feels softer. The sounds of the night begin to fade. Even the insects grow quiet. The worker shifts slightly in his sleep. Outside, the ground rests still beneath the rows of vines. Leaves hang motionless in the calm air. The outline of Mount Vesuvius is barely visible now, a dark shape against a sky slowly turning pale. For generations, people have watched this same view, morning after morning, season after season. The mountain has always stood quietly above the land. Farmers begin their days beneath its shadow. Travelers pass along the roads below. Life continues. This morning seems no different. The first birds begin to stir. Soft sounds come from the trees near the vineyard. A faint breeze moves across the fields. The worker wakes slowly, not from noise, not from movement, but from habit. Years of early mornings have trained his body to rise before sunrise. He opens his eyes and listens. The world feels calm, still, peaceful. He sits up slowly. The air inside the small room is cool. He stands and steps toward the doorway. Outside, the sky has begun to lighten. A pale glow appears behind the distant hills. The vineyard stretches quietly before him, rows of vines fading into the early morning light. The worker breathes deeply. The smell of earth and grapes lingers in the air. Another day of harvest is beginning. He glances toward Mount Vesuvius. The mountain stands silent as always. Nothing moves, nothing changes. He steps outside and begins walking slowly toward the vines. The ground beneath his feet feels firm. The early morning air is calm. From the direction of Pompeii, faint sounds begin to rise. Doors opening, voices calling softly. The city is waking. Smoke begins to rise from cooking fires. The ordinary rhythm of morning returns. The worker bends to examine the vines. The grapes are heavy, ready to be gathered. It will be another long day. He reaches for a basket and begins his work. The sun has not yet risen fully. Soft light spreads slowly across the land. The mountain stands quietly above it all. The worker moves slowly between the rows, picking grapes, listening to the quiet sounds of morning. Nothing feels unusual. Nothing suggests that this calm beginning will soon change. The city of Pompeii wakes peacefully beneath the shadow of Vesuvius, and the vineyard worker begins another ordinary day, unaware that the mountain above him is preparing to awaken. The early morning light spreads slowly across the vineyards. The sun has not yet risen fully, but the sky is growing brighter. Soft gold and pale blue colors stretch above the land. The vineyard worker moves quietly between the rows. He places grapes into a woven basket. The leaves rustle softly as he passes. The air is still warm from the night. From the direction of Pompeii, the sounds of the city grow stronger. Voices echo faintly across the fields. Carts begin rolling along the stone roads. Dogs bark in distant courtyards. Morning has arrived. The worker pauses and straightens his back. He looks once more toward Mount Vesuvius. The mountain stands unchanged, its slopes calm in the early light. Nothing moves. Nothing suggests danger. He continues working. The harvest requires patience. Each cluster of grapes must be gathered carefully. The basket slowly grows heavier. The sun rises a little higher. Warm light spreads across the vines. Dew on the leaves begins to disappear. The day begins like many others. Farmers work in nearby fields. Voices carry faintly through the morning air. A cart passes along the road, leading toward the city. The worker hears the creak of wooden wheels. Everything feels ordinary. Then, after some time, he notices something unusual. Birds rise suddenly from the trees near the base of the mountain. A small flock lifts into the sky. They circle briefly, then fly away from the slopes. The worker watches them. Birds sometimes move like this. Nothing seems alarming. He returns to his work. The sun continues to climb. Warmth spreads across the land. The vineyard fills with light. The worker bends again to gather grapes. For a moment, the ground beneath him seems to shift, very slightly, so gently that he is not sure if he imagined it. He pauses, listens. The vines remain still. The air is calm. The movement fades. Small tremors are not unusual in this region. They come and go, often unnoticed. The worker continues. The basket grows full. He lifts it carefully and carries it toward the edge of the vineyard. The path slopes gently downward. From here he can see the rooftops of Pompeii clearly. Smoke rises from morning fires. People move along the streets. The city looks peaceful. The worker sets the basket down. He wipes his hands. And once more his eyes drift toward Mount Vesuvius. The mountain remains silent. But now, high above the slope, he notices something faint. A thin haze, barely visible against the brightening sky. It could be mist. It could be morning clouds. The worker studies it for a moment, then shakes his head slightly. The morning continues. The land is calm, and the day moves forward, slowly and peacefully, beneath the quiet shadow of the mountain. The sun rises higher above the vineyards. A warm light spreads across the rolling land around Pompeii. The morning grows brighter. The vineyard worker continues his slow and careful work. Basket after basket fills with grapes. The leaves shimmer softly in the sunlight. The air remains calm. From the direction of the city, the sounds of daily life continue. Voices, footsteps, The distant creak of carts moving along the roads. Everything feels ordinary. The worker lifts another basket and carries it toward the small path near the edge of the vineyard. As he walks, he glances again toward Mount Vesuvius. The faint haze he noticed earlier still lingers above the slope. It looks slightly thicker now, but still distant, still quiet. Morning mist sometimes gathers near the mountain, especially after warm nights. The worker does not worry. He sets the basket down and stretches his back. The sun is already warming the ground. The smell of ripe grapes fills the air. A breeze moves gently across the vines. Leaves rustle softly. The worker takes a sip from a small clay cup, cool water from a nearby jug. Witty, he sits briefly on a low stone. From here he can see both the vineyard and the road leading toward Pompeii. Travelers move slowly along the path. Some carry baskets, others guide animals. The rhythm of the morning continues. Then, without warning, a deeper tremor passes through the ground. Not strong, but noticeable. The worker feels it beneath him. The stone beneath his feet shifts slightly. Dust falls from a nearby wall. The vines tremble softly. The movement lasts only a moment. Then, everything is still again. The worker looks around. The birds fall silent. The air feels heavier. He has felt tremors before, but this one seems stronger. Still, the land grows quiet again. No sound follows. No change appears in the sky. The worker stands slowly. He looks toward Mount Vesuvius. The haze above the mountain seems darker now, still distant, still silent. From the direction of Pompeii, faint voices carry across the fields. Some people have noticed the tremor, but no panic follows. Life continues. The worker picks up another basket. The grapes must still be gathered. The harvest cannot wait. He walks slowly back into the rows of vines. The leaves brush softly against his shoulders. The sun climbs higher. Warmth spreads across the land. The tremor fades into memory. The worker continues his work. Yet from time to time, his eyes return to the mountain. Something about it now feels different. Not frightening, not yet, but unfamiliar. The vineyard remains calm. The city continues its mourning, and above it all, Mount Vesuvius stands quietly, as if holding its breath. The morning continues quietly across the vineyards. The sun now stands well above the horizon. Warm light covers the land. The vineyard worker moves slowly between the rows, gathering the last clusters of grapes in this section. The baskets are nearly full. The air smells sweet and heavy. From time to time, he glances toward Mount Vesuvius. The haze above the mountain has grown darker, still distant, still silent, but more noticeable now. The worker pauses and wipes his hands. He studies the sky. The haze rises slowly upward. Not like clouds moving across the sky, but like something drifting from the mountain itself. He is not certain. It may still be morning mist. The day is warm. The air is calm. Such things sometimes happen. From the road nearby, voices drift across the vineyard. Two travelers have stopped and are looking toward the mountain. They speak quietly. The worker cannot hear their words, but he notices the direction of their gaze. They too are watching Vesuvius. The worker lifts another basket and carries it toward the edge of the field. The ground beneath his feet feels steady now. The earlier tremor has passed. The vines rustle softly in the breeze. The morning remains peaceful. He sets the basket down and rests for a moment. From here he can see Pompeii more clearly. The city is fully awake. A smoke rises from ovens. People move along the streets. Everything looks calm. Yet above the rooftops, the sky behind the mountain seems darker. The haze is thicker now. It spreads upward slowly. Still no sound. Still no movement beyond the drifting cloud. The worker stands and shades his eyes from the sun. He watches the mountain carefully. Another faint tremor passes through the ground. Slight, but noticeable. The vines shake gently. Dust falls from the path. The worker remains still. The tremor fades quickly. The air grows quiet again. Birds that had settled among the trees lift into the sky. They circle once, then fly away from the mountain. The worker follows their movement. The sky remains clear above the vineyards. But above Vesuvius, the haze continues to rise. He takes a slow breath. The morning no longer feels entirely ordinary. Yet there is no panic, no shouting, only quiet uncertainty. From the road, more travelers pass. Some pause, some continue walking. All glance toward the mountain. The worker picks up another basket. Work continues. The harvest must go on. The sun warms the ground. The vines shimmer softly in the light, but above the peaceful landscape, Mount Vesuvius now sends a darker cloud into the bright morning sky. The late morning sun grows warmer over the vineyards. Light reflects softly from the leaves. The air feels heavier now. The vineyard worker continues his slow rhythm of gathering grapes, but his attention drifts more often toward the mountain. The cloud above Mount Vesuvius has grown larger. It rises higher into the sky. Still silent, still distant, yet clearly different from the calm morning clouds. The worker pauses again. He rests his hand on a wooden post and watches. The shape of the cloud spreads slowly upward. Its color darker than before. Not quite smoke, not quite mist. Something in between. From the road below, more people have stopped to look. A farmer stands beside his cart. Two women carrying baskets whisper quietly. A child points toward the mountain. No one speaks loudly. The morning remains calm. The worker listens. The vineyard is quiet. The insects hum softly. Leaves rustle gently, but the sky above the mountain continues to change. The cloud thickens. It rises higher. The worker wipes his hands and steps toward the edge of the vineyard. From here he can see Pompeii clearly. The city is busy now, the market district filled with movement. Smoke rising from ovens, people walking through the streets. Everything looks normal. Yet the cloud above the mountain now casts a faint shadow. The worker studies it. Still no sound, no fire, no movement on the slopes. Only the growing column reaching into the sky. Another tremor passes through the ground. Slight, but longer than before. The vines shake gently. The baskets rattle softly. Dust rises from the path. The worker stands still. The tremor fades. A shutting silence returns. The air feels heavier now. Birds fly again from the trees, more than before. They move quickly away from the mountain. The worker follows them with his eyes. The sky above the vineyards remains clear. Only the distant mountain changes. From the road, voices drift toward him. People are beginning to speak more urgently. Some point toward the cloud. Others continue walking, unsure what to think. The worker lifts his basket again. He moves slowly back into the rows. The sun climbs higher. The day grows warmer. The cloud above Vesuvius continues rising. The morning that began so calmly now carries a quiet sense of change. Yet the land remains peaceful. The city continues its work. And the vineyard worker gathers grapes beneath a sky that is slowly, silently transforming. By midday, the sun stands high above the vineyards. The light is bright and steady. The air has grown warmer. The vineyard worker slows his movements. The baskets of grapes are nearly full. The harvest is progressing well. Yet his attention continues to return to Mount Vesuvius. The cloud above the mountain has changed again. It now rises higher into the sky, thicker, darker, still silent, but no longer easy to ignore. The worker steps into the shade of a small tree. He wipes sweat from his forehead. The heat of the day mixes with a strange stillness in the air. From the road below, more people have stopped to look. Some stand quietly. Others speak in low voices. No one seems certain what the cloud means. The worker studies the mountain. The shape of the cloud spreads outward at the top, like a tree rising into the sky, its base hidden behind the slope. The sky around it remains clear, bright blue. Only the mountain is changing. A faint tremor moves through the ground again, this time slightly stronger. The baskets shift. Leaves tremble. The worker steadies himself. The tremor fades. The air grows quiet again. The vineyard remains calm, yet the silence now feels different. The worker looks toward Pompeii. From here, he can see more movement in the streets. People standing outside buildings, some pointing toward the mountain, others continuing their work. The city does not panic, but attention is turning. The worker lifts one final basket. He carries it slowly toward the storage area. The grapes are heavy. The day has grown long. As he walks, he glances again toward Vesuvius. The cloud now reaches much higher, its edges spreading slowly across the sky. Still no sound. Still no fire. Only the steady rise. The worker sets the basket down. He takes a drink of water. The taste is cool, refreshing. The air around him remains calm. The vines rustle gently. The insects continue their steady rhythm. Everything on the ground feels ordinary. Only the sky is changing. Another tremor passes. Longer now, the earth shifts gently. Dust falls from the stone wall. The worker watches the mountain. The cloud continues to grow. The sun shines brightly. The vineyard remains peaceful. Yet, beneath the calm surface, the day is quietly transforming. The worker stands in the warm midday light, watching Mount Vesuvius slowly awaken. The afternoon begins slowly over the land surrounding Pompeii. The sun remains high, but the light softens slightly as time passes. The vineyard worker sits in the shade near the edge of the field. The baskets of grapes are now stacked nearby. The harvest for the morning is finished. The air feels unusually still. Even the insects seem quieter. From where he sits, the mountain is clearly visible. The cloud above Mount Vesuvius has grown much larger. It rises high into the sky, spreading slowly outward. The shape now resembles a tall column, dark at its base, lighter near the top. The worker watches silently. He has never seen anything like this before. From the road below, more travelers have stopped. Some stand beside their carts. Others sit on stones, looking toward the mountain. Voices carry faintly across the fields. People are beginning to wonder. Still, no one panics. The day remains calm. The sun warms the earth. The vines rustle gently in the breeze. The worker leans forward slightly. He studies the cloud. It continues rising, slowly, steadily. The sky around it remains bright. The contrast makes the column more visible. Another tremor moves through the ground. Stronger than before. The worker feels it clearly. The baskets rattle. The leaves shake. Dust lifts from the soil. The tremor lasts a little longer, then fades. The air grows quiet again. The worker stands slowly. He brushes dust from his clothes. His eyes return to the mountain. The cloud now spreads wider at the top, like a canopy above the peak. The worker takes a slow breath. The afternoon no longer feels ordinary, yet the land remains peaceful. No fire, no sound, only the growing cloud. From the direction of Pompeii, more voices rise. People have begun gathering in open spaces. Some look upward, others continue their work. The city is uncertain. but calm. The worker walks slowly along the edge of the vineyard. The sun casts long light across the rows of vines. The grapes glow softly in the warmth. The day continues, but the sky above Vesuvius continues to change. Small fragments now appear to fall from the cloud, too distant to see clearly. Perhaps dust, perhaps ash. The worker watches carefully. The air remains still. The falling fragments drift slowly downward. The worker senses that the day is shifting, not suddenly, not violently, but gradually, like the slow turning of seasons. The vineyard remains quiet. The city continues its afternoon, and above them all, Mount Vesuvius rises beneath a cloud that grows larger with every passing moment. The afternoon light slowly begins to soften. Shadows stretch across the vineyards. The heat of the day lingers, but the air feels heavier now. The vineyard worker remains near the edge of the field, watching the mountain. The cloud above Mount Vesuvius has grown even larger. It now rises high above the peak. The top spreads outward like a wide canopy, its edges slowly drifting across the sky. The worker has stopped harvesting. The baskets remain where he left them. His attention is fixed on the mountain. From the road below, more people gather. Travelers stop their carts. Farmers leave their fields. Small groups form, all looking in the same direction. No one speaks loudly. The calm of the afternoon remains, yet the sense of unease grows. The worker notices small particles drifting through the air. At first, they are barely visible, tiny specks floating downward. They land softly on the leaves of the vines, on the wooden fence, on the ground. He reaches out his hand. A few small grains settle on his palm. Fine, light, like dust. He rubs them gently between his fingers. The particles fall away easily. The worker looks again toward the mountain. The cloud continues to rise, the column now darker near its base. The sky above Pompeii begins to change. A faint haze spreads outward. The sunlight grows slightly dimmer, still warm, still calm, but softer. Another tremor moves through the ground. This time more noticeable. The worker steadies himself. The vines shake. The baskets shift slightly. The tremor passes. The silence returns. Birds lift from the trees again. More than before, they fly quickly away from the mountain. The worker watches them disappear across the sky. From Pompeii, distant voices drift across the fields. People are now clearly watching. Some begin walking toward open areas. Others gather in courtyards. The city does not panic, but attention has shifted. The worker brushes the dust from his arm. More particles drift slowly downward. They land quietly. The vineyard begins to take on a faint gray tone. The leaves no longer shine as brightly. The sunlight dims slightly. The worker breathes slowly. The air now carries a different scent, dry, faint, unfamiliar. He looks once more toward Mount Vesuvius. The cloud continues to expand. The afternoon grows quieter. The land remains calm. Yet everything feels changed. The vineyard worker stands beneath the slowly darkening sky, watching the mountain as the first ash settles gently across the fields. The afternoon slowly begins to fade. The light above the vineyards grows softer. The sun still hangs in the sky, but its warmth feels weaker now. A thin layer of ash settles across the leaves of the vines. The vineyard worker brushes his hand gently over a cluster of grapes. A fine dust coats the surface. The fruit no longer shines in the sunlight. Instead, everything appears muted, quiet, still. More particles drift down from the sky. They fall slowly, almost gently, like soft, gray snow. The worker looks toward Pompeii. From here, he can see movement in the streets, people stepping outside their homes, some covering their heads, others pointing toward the sky. The city remains calm, but uncertain. The cloud above Mount Vesuvius has grown enormous. It stretches high into the sky, dark at its base, pale at the top, the shape slowly expanding outward. The air grows dimmer, shadows soften. The bright afternoon now feels like early evening. The worker walks slowly along the edge of the vineyard. Ash crunches faintly beneath his feet. The sound is soft, barely noticeable. The vines rustle gently in the still air. The breeze has faded. The land feels unusually quiet. Another tremor passes through the ground. Longer now, more noticeable. The worker steadies himself against a wooden post. The baskets shift. Dust rises from the soil. The tremor fades slowly. Silence returns. The worker looks again toward the mountain. The cloud continues to rise. More ash drifts downward. The sky grows darker, not suddenly, but gradually. The sunlight weakens. The colors of the land fade. Pompeii appears dimmer in the distance. Voices from the city carry across the fields, some louder now, still not panic, but concern. The worker brushes ash from his shoulders. It settles again, almost immediately. The air feels thicker. He takes a slow breath. The smell is dry, like warm stone, like dust. The vineyard remains calm. No flames, no noise, only falling ash. The worker stands quietly, watching, listening. The afternoon slowly turns toward evening, and beneath the spreading cloud, Pompeii and the surrounding fields grow quieter as the ash continues to fall. The light over the vineyards continues to fade. Though the sun has not yet set, the sky has grown dim. Ash falls more steadily now, fine particles drifting silently through the air. They settle across the vines, the ground, and the baskets left beside the path. The vineyard worker moves slowly between the rows. Each step produces a faint crunch beneath his feet. The land no longer feels like a bright summer afternoon. Instead, the world seems muted, quiet, covered in soft gray dust. The worker looks toward Pompeii. The city appears hazy now, the outlines of buildings softened by the falling ash. People move through the streets, but their shapes are less clear. The distance between the vineyard and the city seems greater than before. The cloud above Mount Vesuvius continues to expand, its base now darker, the upper portion spreading across the sky. The worker watches carefully. He has never seen the sky change like this. The air feels heavier. Breathing requires slightly more effort. Still, the land remains calm. No wind, no sudden movement, only the slow fall of ash. Another tremor moves through the ground. This one stronger than before. The worker steadies himself against a vine post. The baskets shift again. Some grapes roll gently onto the dusty soil. The tremor fades. The silence returns. Birds no longer sing. The insects have grown quiet. Even the distant sounds of the city seem softer. The worker brushes ash from his arms. It continues to settle. Thin layers covering everything. The leaves of the vines now coated in gray. The ground losing its warm color. The sky dimming further. The afternoon now feels like twilight. The worker walks toward the edge of the vineyard. He studies the mountain again. The cloud rises endlessly. The column thick and dark. The top spreading wide across the sky. Small fragments now fall more frequently. Larger pieces landing among the vines. Soft, but noticeable. The worker steps back slowly. The calm of the day has changed, not suddenly, but gradually. The land feels suspended in quiet uncertainty. From Pompeii, distant voices grow louder. People now moving more quickly. Some heading toward open spaces, others gathering belongings. Still no chaos, but movement. The worker looks once more across the vineyard. Ash continues to fall. The light continues to fade, and the quiet landscape of vines and hills slowly disappears beneath the shadow of Mount Vesuvius. The sky above the vineyards grows darker with every passing moment. Ash now falls steadily. Not heavy, but constant. The vineyard worker moves slowly toward his small home. The baskets of grapes remain behind. Covered in gray dust, the harvest no longer seems important. The ground crunches softly beneath his feet. Fine ash coats the path. The air feels thicker. Breathing requires more effort. Still, the world remains strangely calm. No wind, no flames, only falling ash. The worker looks toward Pompeii again. The city is dim now, shapes blurred by the haze. People move through the streets in small groups. Some cover their heads, others look toward the mountain. The cloud above Mount Vesuvius spreads farther. The sky now resembles early evening, yet the sun has not fully set. The light is filtered, soft, muted. The worker reaches the doorway of his home. He pauses and looks back toward the vineyard. Rows of vines stretch into the dim light. Leaves coated in dust, the landscape transformed. Another tremor moves through the ground. Stronger, longer. The worker grips the doorframe. The house creaks softly. The tremor fades slowly. Silence returns. Ash continues to fall. Small pieces now landing with faint sounds. The worker steps inside briefly. The room is dim. Dust settles across the wooden table. He takes a cloth and covers a small water jug, then steps outside again. The sky has darkened further. The cloud now spreads across much of the horizon. The worker watches quietly. The land remains calm, the vineyards silent. Pompeii dim in the distance. The first signs of evening begin to appear, though the day has not yet ended. The worker sits on a low stone. Ash settles on his shoulders. He brushes it away slowly. The air smells dry, like warm dust, like stone. The world feels suspended, waiting. The worker looks once more toward Mount Vesuvius, the mountain now hidden behind the growing cloud. Only the rising column visible. The vineyard grows quieter, the city grows dimmer, and beneath the falling ash, the calm landscape slowly disappears into shadow. The late afternoon fades into an unnatural twilight. The sun is still somewhere behind the thickening cloud, but its light no longer reaches the ground. The vineyards lie beneath a dim, gray sky. Ash continues to fall steadily. The vineyard worker remains seated near the doorway of his home. The quiet of the landscape feels almost unreal. Oh, the familiar colors of the land have disappeared. Greens and golds, replaced by shades of gray. The worker stands slowly. The air feels heavier now. He walks a few steps toward the vineyard. Each step produces a soft crunch. Ash has begun to collect in thin layers across the soil. The leaves of the vines droop under the weight. From the direction of Pompeii, voices now carry more clearly. People are moving more quickly. Some walking away from the city, others calling to one another. The worker watches. The distant rooftops are barely visible. The haze thickens. Another tremor passes through the ground. Stronger than before. The worker steadies himself. The vines shake. Ash falls from the leaves in soft clouds. The tremor continues briefly, then fades. The silence afterward feels deeper. The worker looks toward Mount Vesuvius. The column above the mountain now towers into the sky, its shape wide and spreading. The sky around it dark. Small stones now fall among the ash. They land softly. Some bounce against the ground. The worker steps back toward the doorway. He listens. Still no loud sound. Only the quiet fall of ash and small fragments. The air grows dimmer. The worker brushes ash from his arms. It settles again almost immediately. The landscape continues to change. The road near the vineyard now faintly covered. The fences dusted gray. The baskets of grapes nearly hidden. From Pompeii, distant movement continues. People leaving, others returning. The city no longer feels calm, yet still no panic, only uncertainty. The worker stands quietly, watching, listening. The afternoon disappears completely. The sky now dark like evening. Ash continues to fall. the vineyards silent, and beneath the spreading shadow, the peaceful land around Pompeii slowly vanishes into gray twilight. The sky above the vineyards is now dark, not the darkness of night, but a heavy dim light. Ash continues to fall in a steady curtain. The vineyard worker stands in the doorway of his small home. The air feels thick. The ground is now covered in a soft gray layer. Each step leaves a clear mark. The worker looks toward Pompeii. The city is barely visible now, shapes blurred by the falling ash. Movement continues, people walking, some carrying bundles, others guiding animals. The distance between the vineyard and the city seems filled with haze. Another tremor shakes the ground, stronger. The worker grips the doorframe. The house creaks softly. Small stones fall from the roof. The tremor lasts longer, then fades. The worker breathes slowly. The air smells dry. The sky grows darker. Small stones now fall more frequently. They land among the vines, tap softly against the ground, bounce and settle. The worker steps outside again. Ash settles on his shoulders. He brushes it away. It returns. The vineyard is nearly silent. The insects have stopped. The birds are gone. Only the quiet fall of ash remains. From Pompeii, voices now louder, some calling, some moving quickly. The worker watches. The city is changing. The sky continues to darken. The cloud above Mount Vesuvius spreads wider. The mountain itself, now hidden completely. The worker stands still. The land he knows so well no longer looks familiar. The rows of vines barely visible, the path covered, the baskets almost hidden. The world has grown quiet, heavy, still. The worker takes a slow breath. The air feels warm and dusty. He looks once more toward Pompeii. The city fades further into the gray, and beneath the falling ash, the calm countryside slowly disappears into darkness. The darkness deepens over the vineyards. Ash continues to fall in a steady, quiet rhythm. The vineyard worker sits once more near the doorway of his home. The world around him has grown silent. The familiar sounds of the countryside have disappeared. No insects, no birds, only the soft sound of ash settling on the ground. The air feels heavy. The sky above is dark and still. The worker looks toward Pompeii. The city is now barely visible. Only faint shapes remain in the distance. Movement continues. Small groups walking slowly. Some carrying belongings. Others simply looking back toward the mountain. The worker remains calm. There is still no sudden noise, no violent wind, only the quiet transformation of the landscape. Ash gathers in thicker layers. The ground grows softer beneath his feet. Each step leaves deeper impressions. The vines bend slightly under the weight. The worker brushes ash from a wooden post. It falls like fine sand. Another tremor passes through the ground. Long, slow, the house creaks gently. The worker steadies himself. The tremor fades. The silence returns. The sky remains dark. Time seems to slow. The worker breathes carefully. The air feels dry. The smell of dust fills the air. From the direction of Pompeii, distant voices continue, some louder, some fading. The city is moving, but still without chaos. The worker watches quietly. The land he knows has changed. The vineyard now covered, the path hidden, the baskets nearly buried. The worker looks once more toward the mountain. The cloud above Vesuvius spreads across the sky. The darkness deepens. The world grows still. The worker remains seated, listening, watching, waiting. The night-like darkness settles fully across the vineyards. Pompeii fades into the haze, and beneath the falling ash, the quiet land rests in heavy silence as history continues to unfold. The quiet darkness continues over the vineyards. Ash falls more slowly now. The air remains still. The vineyard worker sits quietly, watching the fading outline of the land. The world has grown silent. The familiar shapes of the vines are barely visible. The ground is soft beneath the layer of ash. The worker breathes slowly. The air feels dry and warm. From the direction of Pompeii, faint movement continues. Figures moving through the haze, small groups walking carefully, some carrying bundles, others guiding animals. The worker remains calm. The change has come gradually, not with noise, not with sudden fear, but with a slow transformation of the sky. The darkness deepens further. The worker stands slowly. Ash falls from his shoulders. He brushes it away gently, then looks once more toward the mountain. The cloud now fills much of the sky. The land beneath it lies quiet. The vineyard rests in stillness. The worker steps back toward his doorway. The small home stands silent. Dust covers the threshold. The world feels distant, muted. Calm, he sits once more, listening to the soft fall of ash. Time passes slowly. The sky remains dark. Pompeii fades further into the haze. The worker closes his eyes for a moment. The air remains quiet. The land still, and beneath the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, the peaceful vineyards disappear into darkness as the night-like silence settles over Pompeii.